Hey guys, I hope that you are starting to adjust to new rhythms. Hopefully you're being able to ease into some new routines. Before we get started here, I have a few updates I want to give you. I promised that I would be releasing some messages, posting some videos, and I've done that. Hopefully you've seen them. I said I was going to continue to teach the life of Jesus, and I've done that. An audio of that has been posted to our website. I released a short video towards the end of last week, just to check in, encourage you, give you some things to think about, something to help you in the present circumstance, in the present moment, something that dealt specifically with these circumstances. And of course you have this video that you're going to watch, which is again going to deal with or address specifically these circumstances that we find ourselves in, okay? But moving forward, I want to do a few little changes here. The first is this: you will continue, okay? I guess it's not so much of a change as a consistent thing that's going to happen. You're going to continue to get a video once a week that's going to specifically deal with our present circumstances, okay? It's going to, my goal is to help you figure out, navigate all these changes and all the things that are going to surface, and us trying to adjust and to these new norms. And so that video is going to specifically deal with that. But moving forward, here's where the change is going to come in. I am going to take the life of Jesus, and I'm going to release 2 videos every week. One is going to be on Wednesday, and one is going to be on Sunday. It's a way to continue the class. It's a way to continue the discussion or the conversation about Jesus. My goal has always been, it's really this Life of Jesus class has always been a passion of mine, to be able to go through the Gospels and try and paint a picture of what we see. And it's a passion of mine, and I see this as a great opportunity to continue that. It'll also give us a little bit of consistency, some flavor, if you will, of what we maybe had been used to for so long on Sundays as we gathered together. And so the message that I deliver to you again on Wednesday, it will be a video, and it will be on the life of Jesus. And the message that I give you here on Sunday will also be from the same context, the same line, the same study of the life of Jesus. So yeah, moving forward, that's what I want to do. I guess I could release a video every Sunday and talk specifically into the present realities and to hit you over and over and over and over again. The way that I feel about this is that there's tons of information out there. That most of the stuff that's being put out there directly addresses this stuff, okay? And I think it's an overload. I think we can go overboard with it. And so I think that by us focusing our minds on Jesus during this present moment, it's not necessarily an escape. It's a reminder, right? It's a reminder of that there is something greater than this. There's something bigger than this. And what better way to remind us of that thing than focusing our attention on Jesus, okay? And so moving forward, that's what we're going to do. Again, you're going to get 3 videos. One's going to be a short check-in that deals specifically with what's going on here, and the other 2, well, are going to be some teachings from the life of Jesus and me trying to paint a picture of what that looks like. So we're going to try that, and it may not work. We may hate it, and I may not like it, and we may come back to doing something else. I don't know. We're just trying to figure this thing out. And so hopefully this will work, and hopefully you'll get something from this. And so yeah, enjoy the message. Today I want to talk to you about our current situation. It has some good things, okay? It has the power to show us who we really are, and I think that's a good thing. If we pay attention, we can learn a lot about ourselves, and in some ways, reality is we're being forced, right, to face who we are. We're being forced to spend time with ourselves. And who knows? Who knows what things in our hearts are going to surface during all of this, right? what fears and anxieties are going to be brought to the table, what doubts we're going to have to wrestle with. Who knows what beliefs we're going to have to contend with, right? I mean, like what we really believe, not just what we say we believe, but who knows what's going to surface over, well, the next coming weeks. And it may be the case that when these things surface for you normally, it's easy to dismiss, right? We can numb them. We can distract ourselves, right? We're masters of numbing. We have so many goodies to help us escape. We can go binge watch one more thing. We can go to one more event. We can go do one more thing. But this is something different, right? Than anything that we've had to face. It's not just in our minds. We have had to physically change our rhythms because of things completely out of our control. You might find yourself spending more time with your kids and your spouse, and well, that could be a good thing, but you're just not used to that, and they're not used to that. And at some point, they may be on the receiving end of your response to the stress that you feel. You may find yourself more isolated now than ever before, stuck inside four walls just to contend with your own thoughts, right? Do I have a job? Will I be able to find a job? Will I be able to pay my bills? Do I have enough food to eat? Will I be able to get more food? You might have been forced to adapt to working from home, which has its own challenges. Trying to do what you normally do, get the same things accomplished, but in a different environment. Now, some people aren't affected by that, but that can be a very difficult thing for others. And so it comes with its own challenges, right? But maybe you're fine with all of this, but you're feeling this fear and this anxiety because of this hidden terror. Do I have it? Do they have it? Is it safe to go to the store? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my parents, my grandparents, those who may be more vulnerable? Yeah. Regardless, I think this is hitting us all on different levels, and as a result of your specific circumstances and the distress that you are under, you may find yourself reacting in certain ways that you might not like. Okay, and at some point, you might begin to see something within you that you're not happy with, and leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Right? Your children or your spouse or others in your home might find themselves on the receiving end of your reaction to the distress that you are feeling. You might say, do, or even just feel some things that, man, when they surface, you don't like what you see. And when this happens, as I see it, there are two different ways that you can respond. One is probably the way that we respond normally. When you begin to see things about yourself that you don't like, we typically begin to beat ourselves down, right? We fill our minds with negative self-talk. We say things like, man, I was stupid, I'm such an idiot, or I can never do anything right, I'm such a horrible mom or dad, or horrible spouse, friend, daughter, son, right? Just a horrible person. And we say all sorts of things in our minds. We beat ourselves down, and it's typically, I think, where we normally go. Now, I want to challenge you to do something different. If and when things about who you really are begin to surface, and you have to face them, instead of immediately beating yourself down, I want to challenge you to be kind to yourself. I want to challenge you to be gentle to yourself. I want to challenge you to love yourself. Now, that might sound like some mushy self-help talk to you, and at the end of the day, you're going to receive this however you want. However, I think it's important now, maybe more than ever in our lifetime, that we come to understand what it means to love your neighbor as yourself. Mark 12:29-31. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said there are no commands greater than this. Now, most often what happens when we think about loving God and loving our neighbor, the as yourself part, that part, the as yourself, doesn't get the attention that it needs. And here's why this is important. Because ultimately, you will love others as you love yourself. Ultimately, how you look at yourself is how you're going to look at others. And so when Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, there is a direct link between one and the other, neighbor and self. And while loving your neighbor is important, the qualifier here is what? As yourself. And here's some irony for you. Imagine if you actually treated your neighbor as you typically treat yourself. How would that go? Would you really be a good neighbor? That's my question. Imagine if you actually treated your spouse, your children, family, friends, people, how you typically treat yourself. Would you be considered a loving person? Would people think, would you look like a good person? How would that go for you? See, and we typically think that we can love on our neighbors and other people and not worry about how we think about ourselves or how we treat ourselves. But quite honestly, that's like having two kids and loving one and not the other. Like, how hypocritical of us to think that we can love other people without loving ourselves, right? And the one who's being cheated here, well, it's us. It's us. Furthermore, I even question, how deeply can we actually love others if we don't love ourselves? Now, think about it. You can be kind and gentle to other people, but how deep does that kindness or gentleness really go when we're not kind or gentle to ourselves, right? Those reactions, how we treat other people and how we treat ourselves, they come from the same heart. And if you remember what James says in James chapter 3, beginning of verse 10, he says, listen, from the same mouth come blessing and cursing, and this should not be. He goes on to say, do you get fresh water and salt water from the same fountain? Right? Can a fig tree bring forth olives? Can a grapevine bring forth figs? And the obvious answer is no. He says, so this should not be. And the reality is, we will end up treating other people the way we treat ourselves. Think about Proverbs 4:23. It says, listen, guard your hearts with all diligence, for it determines the course of your life. You could pretend that you have a good heart by doing kind things and being gentle and being loving and being patient with other people. But in so many ways, how deep does that go if we're not the same way to ourselves? See, the way you treat your own heart is the way you will treat others. The way you love yourself is ultimately the way you will love others. Now, you might immediately disagree and say, well, no, I tend to be a little bit more patient, a little bit more kind, a little bit more gentle, a little more loving to other people than I am to myself. And I would say, yeah, that's true in the short term. But over time, little things build up and begin to surface. And our children and our spouses and our friends and people around us, they begin to get the hint. They begin to see the real you. Because we can only pretend for so long. Scripture says, be sure your sins will find you out. Yeah, filters break down. Things surface. Things come out. And the reality is, you can only love others as deeply as you love yourself, in a very sincere way. Paul says, love sincerely. So how deep can that love go if we don't love ourselves? Love others as you love yourself. Okay, so this can sound very negative, and maybe even listening to this might lead you to beating yourself up because you realize this. Yeah, I'm not very kind to myself. I don't love myself. I'm not gentle to myself. So here's some good news. Okay, here's the good news. The good news is it's okay to love yourself. Like, that's good news. It's okay to love yourself. It's okay to focus on treating your heart with kindness and gentleness. You know, all that stuff that the New Testament letters tell us to do to other people, yeah, it's okay to do that to yourself. It's okay to be kind and patient with yourself. Like, it applies to other people, but listen, it also applies to yourself as well. Now, obviously, it's not just about ourselves, right? We're not about being selfish, and there are times where we need to put the interests of other people over ourselves. But remember, this includes you. It includes me. It's not just about loving other people. It's also about loving yourself, because you love others as you love yourself. So this includes us. And why wouldn't it, right? Why wouldn't it? Here's some more good news for you, okay? If you really believe what you say you believe about God being love and loving you, if you really believe that Jesus was the ultimate manifestation of God's love for you, does this not tell you something about you, about your worth, about your value? Think about it. If God is merciful and kind and loving towards you, should you not consider being the same way to yourself? I mean, after all, it's what will determine if we really or sincerely are going to be that way towards other people. Consider Proverbs 19. Proverbs 19:8 says this: to acquire wisdom is to love oneself. People who cherish understanding, he says, will prosper. So here's a word to the wise. If and when your present circumstances cause things to begin to surface that you don't like, if you happen to say, to do, or even just feel some things that leave a bad taste in your mouth, you don't like what you're seeing, remember, be gentle and kind to yourself. Love yourself. God does. So grace and peace to you, my friends, and we'll talk to you soon.